Hi, my name is David Robertson, and this is another one of my educational blacksmiths videos. Today I'll be making a wizard hook. You can see a sample here, and we'll get to the forge work. There are a couple different types of wizard hooks. I'll be doing the one on the right, and I start with a 4-inch piece of 1/2-inch square bar, and I draw out the cap or the hat to a sharp point, and then I turn around and I draw the beard out to a very long point. And this is the process that I'm working on right now. And I draw it out square. I'm rotating 90 degrees, and then go back in and adjust the corners a little bit. So now this is a bar that's pointed on both ends, ready for the next series of steps. Turn it around, pop it back into the forge, and now I use the swage block, and I'm using the V groove in the swage block to create a triangular shaped bar. So I'm hammering the face down into the groove, and I'll work various size grooves until I get a nice flat back, and then this is what will go to the wall. I work most of the bar, trying to create this V groove gives the nose shape and still a flat back portion to put onto the wall. The hook in the opening picture, the one with the mustache, that's made on the square, so I wouldn't use the swage block at all. I would just square off the bar, round the corners a little bit, and then use the flat of the square bar as the back for the hook. So here I'm refining the hat a little bit, just smoothing it off, cleaning up a few hammer strokes from the swage block. I'll do the same refining on the beard, and again this is just smoothing off any marks that were left and giving it a little bit of a final shape. You can start to see that there's a triangular nose profile. I haven't put the step in for the nose yet, but you can see that it's beginning to create that shape. So I create the nose on the far edge of the anvil, and you want to make a nice clean step, a nice clean shoulder here. You don't want it bouncing around at all. And then I'm smoothing out the mouth area a little bit. You can start to see that there's a bit of a nose being formed. Now I'm using one of my hold downs to start doing some texturing work with punches and chisels. And what I'm actually using is a punch that's like a center punch, and I'm creating the nostrils for the nose. And I'm just putting tiny little divots in at the moment where I want them, and then I'll expand on these once I clamp it in the vise. The hold down goes through the anvil, and then I have a foot lever that clamps on it. So if it skitters around, I can put more weight on the piece. I also do the same thing for the eyes, and I start with the center punch because that allows me to get an exact spot and dig into the metal and start to carve it out when it's hot. The eyes I switch over to a round punch after I get the initial shape formed, and spread them out so that I can actually put 2 screws through for mounting. You can see the development of the eyes. Now I've quenched the cap portion, the hat, down, and I'm going to start working on the nose and flaring it out. Now I'm using a support block in the vise so that when I'm hammering down, some of the force is transferred right into the vise, and that way the hook doesn't slide around at all. And I'll get a couple hammer strikes, go back, take another heat, a couple more hammer strikes. It's a fairly involved process, but certainly you can make some pretty nice sculptural pieces on a small scale using these punch techniques. And again, I'm using the center punch here, and I'm working on the nostrils of the nose. So I bite in a fair ways and I start prying down, and you can see I'll change my angle with the punch as I see the nostril flare. And I just work until I develop something that I like in shape and size. Back for another heat. The vise steals the heat out quite quickly. Also, you've quenched down the top portion. You can see the face is beginning to develop. Clamp again and the hold down. And now I'll start using it's a straight chisel, so it's like a cold chisel in shape, but the edge is rounded. It's not sharp at all. And what I'm doing right now is defining the hat, so I'm placing a line on the forehead, and I'm carving the eyebrows as well. These are just small added details that helps the person recognize that it's a human or mythological face. You can see the bar skitters around a little bit, and for working right on the side of the bar, I'll actually put a tool in the hardy hole, and that allows me to have it as a side wall to press against. But most of the work can be done with various hold downs. Same chisel, flat chisel here, and I'm creating the line texture on the beard. So it's just a whole series of small overlapping lines to create the look of hair. It runs right up onto the upper lip to create the semblance of a mustache. I haven't put the mouth in yet. That'll be a little ways along. And I'll work both sides of this, not front and back, but left and right. Now I've switched around there. Now I'm working the other side. And these are essentially random. You don't have to be precise about them at all. Since the hook curves up and essentially hides the lower portion, I actually don't bother putting any of the hair lines on the bottom part of the hook. I can work right down into a black heat when I'm creating the score marks for the beard. When you're actually moving the metal around, as with the nostrils and the eye sockets, keep your temperature high, up in the yellows and oranges. Once it gets cold, it just will not move the way you want it to. But for just general texturing, which is essentially what I'm doing with the beard, then that can be done almost cold. We'll pop it back in for another heat. There's really only a handful of chisels, which I'll show you a photograph at the end, that I use for these sculptural faces. So you can see the eyes, the nose, the upper lip. Now I'm using a mouth-shaped punch to create the mouth, and trying to just slowly work it down into the bar in one spot. I don't want to skitter around with this, or it creates an odd-looking shape. You can slowly see the depressions increasing, and again, this is one that you would work at quite hot. Once you get the mouth in, it begins to look like an actual face. You can see that's developed there. Now I form the hook. And just over the edge of the anvil and the horn until I get the shape I like. And you can be as fussy or as fancy with this as you want. This is just an example. I've done ones where the hat's folded over, and there you go. And there's a simple little wizard hook. These are the punches I was talking about, and from the left to the right is the mouth punch, a rounded finger punch, the straight punch, teardrop shaped punch, and the center punch. These are all made out of a moderate carbon steel 5160, and they work quite well for this. Thank you for watching this video, and please see artistblacksmith.com for more tips and information on blacksmithing, and there you can join my free newsletter as well. Thank you very much, and we'll see you later.